Welcome back to the Forward Moves podcast, a place where we talk about all things business, branding, systems, and other.
I'm just looking.
A place where we talk about all things business, branding, systems, and operations for fitness businesses.
It's probably my favourite intro.
Pardon?
It's probably my favourite rogue intro.
Today we have a really exciting guest. One of my favourite people out there and one of my favourite people in the industry. You might know him as Mr Myo, but his real name is actually Stephen. Does anyone know your real name?
No, not at this point. Only my mum.
Oh,
My mum
really?
calls me Stephen, that's it. Everyone else
right.
is just Myo.
Just Myo?
It's been abbreviated now. It's not even Mr Myo anymore, it's Myo.
Just Myo.
Or Mayo. I get Mayo all the time. And I really didn't think about that when I started it. And I still remember the worst thing that could have possibly happened is I ordered 200 hoodies and on the box they wrote Mr Mayo. And I went,
Oh no.
oh, I've just ordered 200 hoodies and they've put Mayo on there. Then I remembered I sent them the logo file, so it was all good. I was like, oh. But yeah, I get it all the time. Like, Mayo. I'm like, yeah, the sandwich guy. Absolutely.
Just lean into it.
Literally,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
just got to run with it.
That's how they know
Nah,
you.
Mayo at this point. But yeah, only my mum calls me Stephen.
How
Wow.
did Myo come about then?
Mayo is the Latin root word for muscle.
Right.
So I didn't want to be, I wanted a business name that was like personified. So it wasn't like, total body balance and wellness, something fucking boring, right? I was like, I want something that becomes like a persona in a sense. And I couldn't be Mr. Muscle because that's like an 80s porn name. So I was like, that's not going to work. So I was like, all right, let's run with Myo. And so, yeah, it's the Latin root word for muscle. So like myofascia, muscle fascia. That's how it come about.
Cool.
Yeah.
This podcast already started off pretty rogue.
Hey, that's what you got me here for.
So we've jumped straight into it, but Mr. Myo, I call you Steve.
Yeah,
You're
that's fine.
Steve to me. So we have been working together for over a year now.
Yeah, it'd be about a year.
Yeah, so we've been working one-to-one together over a year, and I'm really excited to touch on the journey because we've had a lot of growth together.
Yeah. In
And-
ways I never expected, really.
Yeah, there's been a lot of ups and downs, that's for sure. But also, as you can probably tell, Steve is a very educated and intelligent person to the point where sometimes when we have conversations, I'm like, what
Yeah.
is happening right now?
Yeah.
So do you want to explain to the listeners what you do, what your business is?
Okay, so I'm a on paper massage therapist, but I decided I could only get so far. I could only treat about 60 to 70% of people's injuries with a remedial massage diploma. I decided to study into, dry needling, cupping, all the different techniques of manual therapy. But what I started to realize is, again, you could rub someone, you could needle them, you could use cupping, but at the end of the day, you're just doing the same thing in a different mode or like through a different vehicle in a sense. I then had to be like, okay, why am I not getting these long-term results? Why am I not getting people out and away from pain completely altogether? So I decided to study into things like biomechanics, anatomy, physiology, even the nervous system, the brain, how people learn from like a cognitive standpoint and then apply that, because at the end of the day, we're working with humans. Like I work with humans. And so we need to understand it's not just muscles and pain. It's like, why do they move a way that creates pain? Why does their brain have a threat response? Why do they act in a certain way? Why do they do certain things? What's their belief systems, their schemas, their thought patterns, processes? Okay, so humans are much more complex than just muscles and bones, 100%.
So you kind of just went down the rabbit hole.
I did. And I was lucky enough, I'd done a mentorship early on. It was 12 months and it was kind of a little bit of everything. And so I learned like programming, physiology, anatomy, all that sort of stuff. And then I was like, what do I enjoy? What has the most crossover to, I guess, what else I enjoy, which was like training and things like that. So then I started to work out biomechanics, so like how people move. And then that just went down another rabbit hole. So yeah, I've only been doing this about 4 years in total. So I've been 3 years off the tools, 4 years in total. And I think this is the first time in 4 years that I haven't been enrolled in a course.
Yeah.
Because you told me not to.
Yeah. I put down. We'll get into that in a second. But for those who don't know, around Newcastle, you're pretty well renowned, and it's really hard for you because although you're known as a massage therapist, people don't come to you for a massage. Like you go to you to get fixed, and you go there. And I remember booking in a couple of years ago. And I went in, I got needling, I got cupping, I got all this stuff. I was like, what is going on right now? Because it was so different for me. And I feel like it's been a really difficult process for us to say we're not just a massage therapist. Yeah.
100%. And it's an identity thing though, right? Because I feel like what people don't understand is like if you look at a physio, an osteo, a chiro, Reiki, energy, all that, anything to do with that, we're all trying to achieve the same thing, which is get people out of pain, moving better, feeling better, being able to do things. The only thing your qualification really restricts you to is the lens in which you view that and how you achieve that. But we're all doing the same shit. But people let their qualification or let's say certification, because I usually refer to qualification as like, well, how many people have you fixed? That's a qualification to me. A certification is a piece of paper that says that you can do something. So people let their certification dictate what they do. Whereas it's like, I sort of found the boundary and was like, okay, what can I do without going outside of my scope, but still trying to achieve the same thing? And funnily enough, people don't understand this, but yes, like when I done my diploma, it was 12 months. I went and studied and done all this sort of thing. And yeah, exactly. It's way more than a massage. Like I don't just rub people. That's probably the least that I do now. I started that way, but that's probably the least thing that I do now.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Because you've definitely told me that it's not what happens in the session, it's what happens outside the session.
100%. So when we look at pain, it's like pain is just a behavior change mechanism. It's telling you whatever you're doing, the body doesn't like it. If you've ever stood too close to it, this is an analogy I use all the time, is like if you've ever stood too close to a bonfire, you're not on fire, but it starts to hurt. That's the brain telling you don't stand any fucking closer or you're going to get hurt. So what do? You go, I'm not going to, stand there and cover myself in anti-flammable liquid. You go, I'm just going to take a fucking step back, right? It makes more sense.
Yeah.
So that's what pain is. It's a behavior change mechanism. And so when you start to learn that, it's like, well, what's the behavior? Massage is like Nurofen. It's symptomatic relief. You then have to be able to identify, okay, are they doing a split squat? Are they doing that with the wrong positioning, wrong whatever? That's what causes the pain. We reduce the pain through manual therapy, but then we have to change how they do the split squat to have that long-term intervention. Yeah.
Yeah. You're removing what is causing the pain rather than putting something on it just to like put up a shield between you and the fire.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So like the other analogy I use is like, imagine you walk in the front door, you've got home from work and you kick your pinky toe on the coffee table and it fucking hurts, right? Like it hurts when you kick your pinky toe. You take some Nurofen and you go, sweet. You leave, you go back to work, you come in the next day, you kick your pinky toe again. You don't go, fuck, I'm going to take more Nurofen. You go, I probably should move the fucking coffee table out of the way, right? Like, and that's what I mean between like behavior change and symptomatic change. It's like we can change symptoms, but at the end of the day, we need to change behavior. Like move the coffee table.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
beautiful.
be a little bit more self-aware, but
Yeah, literally, but that doesn't happen, right?
No.
Like that's a whole nother
Kick
topic.
the table and have a full blown meltdown. Oh,
Literally.
nothing pisses me off more when I kick a table.
Yeah, literally.
you said before that you've been off the tools. Does that just mean like you still treat people, but like
Oh no, so
What
I'm
does
a
that
heavy
mean?
diesel. I'm a heavy diesel mechanic by trade. So I went from that to
I was like,
Yeah.
what do you mean off the tools? I was
Yeah.
like, are you tools your hands?
this. No. I still use those every day. No, I used to
Right,
be.
okay.
I'm a heavy diesel mechanic by trade. So I worked in the mines, open cut coal mining, and I just hated it. So I decided to. Same as everyone else in the mines. You ask someone in the mines how work is, they'll say the money's good.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's not what I asked.
I've heard that once you start, you can't stop because of how good the money is.
Golden handcuffs, that's what they call it
Yeah,
out there.
yeah.
So it's like you start to live a life, and it's usually like mechanics traditionally come from like a car shop or something like that where they get paid like dog shit money. And so then what happens is they go into the mines, they start to work on bigger gear, get paid heaps of money, and then they start to live a lifestyle that reflects their wage.
Yeah.
And so then they can't afford to go anywhere else and work anywhere else because they're like, if I do that, I'm either not going to have, the club sport, the boat, the jet ski, the motorbikes, all that sort of
The
shit.
lifestyle that you used to.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
And a lot of the guys out there get excited. And when you go to a bank and you tell them you want a loan and they're like, where do you work? And you say like Yancoal or, Rio Tinto or something like that, Glencore. They're just like, how much do you want? Take it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because mining it's a massive part of Australia's economy. So therefore it's very stable in a sense. Especially if you're a permanent employee, not a subcontractor. But yeah, if you do that, so then the guys go out, they get these loans for these houses that are like, and 90% of them build a brand new house. And then they get stuck and they have to work there. And
Yeah.
I got to a point where I was like, I'm doing a job that has a lot of money, but I hated turning up every day. Then I was like, okay, I'm going to go and do something I genuinely care about. And I never expected it to be a business. It was supposed to just be a side hustle, so I didn't have to do overtime.
What drew you towards massage?
So I was always into like training and stuff. And
How long you been in training? Like how long have you been training?
I've been training since I was about 20, so 19, 20. So what, 12 years now?
Wow.
Yeah, kind of 12 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So on and off, I've done sort of different things, always like mainly centered around bodybuilding. But I was like, well, I've done something that I hated for a lot of money. Why don't I try something I don't really like? And even if I don't make a lot of money, I might actually enjoy turning up to work and doing it.
Yeah. I find your business journey really interesting. I obviously know it quite well, but I want to pull it apart because there's a lot of lessons in your business journey. A lot of roller coasters we've been on in the last 12 months. But even before that, there was a lot that's happened. So you've gone from coal mining. Is that right? Yeah. And you've started Side Hustle Massage. Was that mobile? Did you have a room?
No, so originally I just worked from home. I got a hand-me-down table from someone and it was shit. Sorry. It was like a spa table and so it didn't have like adjustable legs and stuff. And so I was having like guys bring their girlfriend in and I'd be treating them back to back and my back was getting flogged. But yeah, back room at home. I was living with my partner at the time and just set up in the second bedroom that we had and just started there. And so I had this hand-me-down table, bought some towels from Kmart, ran grapeseed oil, like you get taught in your diploma.
I love the starting from scratch story. Hey, this stuff makes me so happy. Like,
do you know, I started a remedial massage course a few years ago. Halfway through, company went into liquidation. And then I never finished it.
Literally, and like that's super common within that sort of industry because it was like people see it. It's actually like it's a B grade skill that you can turn into a high grade offer, right? Like that's something that, Hormozy talks about a lot. He's like, learn a B grade skill, get good at it, and then make big money off it. And massage is definitely that because, it's a bit unconventional of how I actually decided on my starting pricing. But I went to the local rub and tug and was like, how much do you guys charge for an hour? And they're like, $80. I was like, sick. I'm going to start charging $80 minimum because if that's what you're getting for that service, I'd do way more than that. So that's how I decided. Yeah.
I think that's always a good thing to keep in mind. Like instead of when you're starting out as a business and being like, oh, because I'm new, I'll charge lower, blah, blah. But like you want to give yourself a baseline that people are like used to automatically. And then you don't have to like increase your prices and stuff like that. Like you could be like, I'm worth this much.
Yeah. And I think with massage too, when you first start, unless you learn, the stuff that I learned, like biomechanics and all the other ways of like needling and cupping and doing all that sort of stuff, you're using your body. And it's an hour session. Usually you start with hour sessions or 90-minute sessions. That's what most people offer. And it's like you're using your body for that. You work an 8-hour day. That's 8 hours of just constantly moving. It's like there's only a very short lifespan within that career. So you can't be charging $50 an hour.
Well, that's what made me think of it as well when you said like how like you were sore from the table. Like your body takes a beating giving a massage, especially all day, every day. Like I remember when the company did go into liquidation, I was almost like, okay, because I don't think I could do this every day. I was like, this is a lot of work. Like, so I think when people also think that like a massage is really expensive to go and get, like you have to think about that person is charging for like their physical effort being put into the massage, and that's what they do all the time.
Yeah.
Like, for sure. Like it's hard work.
Yeah, and people don't realize that because they go in and they see that person for an hour.
Yeah,
but it's like what happens outside that hour.
Yeah.
But so I started back room at home, towels, whatever. And I was just like, I'm going to just do this thing. Started charging once I got qualified and then just kept working from there. And just the reason I always encourage people to is like start at a higher rate is because that was what allowed me to pay for courses and shit to get better, right?
When you first started, were you just doing generic massages, redeem your massages?
No. So I originally, there's a form of massage called scraping. Or like instrument-assisted soft tissue mobilization. It's just easy to call it scraping, right? I was doing that because I'd done an online course with some guy from America. Because when I started, massage was like you go to your friend's auntie's house in the middle of nowhere and get rubbed with lavender oil in a fucking weird room somewhere. And like, you're kind of wondering if it's like a Wolf Creek situation. But like, you know what I mean? Like, and you're kind of like, oh, this is a bit weird. And then it started to become like, people started to realize, because you guys would obviously see this too with the fitness industry, there was a massive shift between training versus recovery.
Yeah.
Everybody talked about recovery now. And then massage was always seen as recovery, right? And so I was just lucky enough that I guess in Newcastle, like we have a massive fitness demographic. Yeah. So I was able to like do something that no one else was doing at the time, like doing to that extent. And so I was able to run it from there.
I kind of remember when you blew up.
Okay.
I kind of, because
I still don't see it right now, right? Like,
I've been obviously like in Newcastle for quite a bit of time. I kind of remember when it just became this thing. It was like, are you gonna go see Mr Myo? I'm like, who is Mr Myo? Like, what is going on? And so we'll jump into that. So first of all, I love that you started from scratch because you just started. I feel like that is something that a lot of listeners, they're just waiting to have everything perfect. Just do it. Just do it.
I worked 7
jump
days
in
a
the
week
deep
for
end.
2 years.
Yeah.
I had 4 days off in 2 years, and I was doing like 12-hour night shift. Coming home, I'd get home at 7:30. I'd have clients booked from 8 till 12. Then I'd sleep from 12 till 3:30. Then go back and do another 12-hour doggy.
Stop it.
Yeah.
That's
But also,
insane.
Steve isn't a normal human.
Yeah.
He still does that now.
Yeah, I still have no off switch, but yeah, I think that's the thing though, is like that doing that was what allowed me to build a client base while I still had a full-time income. Having that full-time income, I was able to pay off personal debt. I was able to pay for courses to get better, to do all these things. So the more courses I done, the more I could charge. The more I could charge, the better my lifestyle got. And I was building a client base. And when I actually decided to leave, I just was like, okay, I already have 3 weeks of clients booked in.
Was it scary to leave of such a good paying role to take on your own thing?
I made it was beyond scary because everybody tells you not to do it.
Yeah.
Like in the valley, or in Newcastle, right? But in the valley in general, you get a job in the mines, everyone's like, you've made it. That's it. That's like top tier. Like you're it, right? And even my mum and dad were like, don't fucking leave. Like stay. Like you're not going to do this thing. Like rah, rah, rah.
And I feel like having a salary is such a security blanket.
Yeah. That's what I was saying. Like going from a salary paid job to then self
But if
run.
you think about it, you could lose your job tomorrow. It's
100%.
the exact
If
same
people just
risk.
stopped booking in.
Yep.
Like you mean like as a salary?
Yeah,
job
as a
too.
salary, you could be laid off the next day.
Yeah, literally.
It's the exact same risk.
Yeah.
So you left a really high paying job. You had a full book of clients. And then I remember we were talking about this yesterday. Your first week that you went full time, all your clients cancelled.
My first day, my literal first day, I was like, I was like, I'm going to smash this thing. It was a Friday. I'll never forget it. It was like, because someone asked me in a previous podcast, so like, what was your like welcome to business lesson? I was like, that Friday, that fucking Friday. So
it's going to be dragging through the mud.
literally, and I was just there and I was like, I had this full day booked out and I was like prepping the room and all this sort of stuff. And then the messages started rolling in and people were like, sorry, man, because it was a Friday. Like people are flaky on a Friday. So I was just like, whatever. And then one cancelled. I was like, that's fine. It's just one. I'll just cruise. I'll do something. I'll read a book, whatever. And then it was like the next one and the next one. And I was like, next minute I went from having like a $500-600 day to $100.
Oh my
and I was like,
God.
I've got fucking rent to pay. Like I've got to buy groceries, like all this sort of shit. But I think that moment actually was the thing that flipped it, because it was like right then and there, I could have, at the time, I was still in a pool for subcontracting to the mines, and they literally sent me a text message on that day. It was like, it's just an automatically generated thing. Like it wasn't intentional. And it was like, I could have gone, I'm going to do this, but I didn't. I was like, fuck it. Tomorrow, wake up. It's a new day. Let's do it.
That is like one of those things that happens in life where the world, like the universe will be like, I'm going to test you to see if this is what you really want to do and make that decision. And then that happened to you like day one, like to be like, are you sure?
Yeah. And I don't think life is like, everyone talks about life being like a heap of small actions that lead to big ones. I don't think that's right. Like in business, I think it's like you make 2 or 3 really big fucking decisions and that sets your trajectory 100%. And that was one of them.
Yeah. I think you've got a lot of grit.
Yeah. I don't know. Like people say that, but I'm like, I'm not smart. I just know how to run headfirst at a wall enough times. I'll get through the other side.
You're like the smartest person I've ever met.
Yeah, when it comes to one topic, right? But like that's it. It's probably my biggest flaw and my best characteristic is that I just refuse to give up.
Yeah.
I won't. You can do
you're
whatever you want to do,
entrepreneur,
and I'll keep going. But sometimes I also don't know how to quit, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how to shut something down. So that's also a lesson that I've got to try and learn now.
Yeah. It's hard. So we've gotten to everyone cancelling on your first day.
Yep.
How long did it take you to get your own space from being at home?
So what actually happened, funnily enough, was that after that day, I freaked out. But what I did with that day is I just plastered social media.
Yep.
And just started like posting stuff, and I was getting people to share shit and do all that. And within about a week, I was booked 7 days a week, 6 weeks in advance.
Wow.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And do you think you got booked quickly because there's not really any, I don't know if I'm just naive, but there's not really any other service like yours here?
Yeah, that would be an extent too, but it was actually one of my tattoo artists who said it to me. She was like, you just took something boring and made it sexy.
Yeah.
She's like, we would never have considered massage to be cool, right? And she's like, but then you walk into your clinic and it's like socks and slides, wrap, fucking and we're gonna talk about shit, and I'm gonna you're gonna within 60 minutes you're gonna know every intricate detail of my life. And then people say to me like, oh, you're so easy to be around and it's so easy to talk to. I was like, yeah, because I've shown you everything there is to know about me. I've even if you don't want to hear it, I'm gonna fucking tell you anyway. So yeah, I think that's another thing too, is like they teach you when you do your diploma, they're like, oh, you don't talk to people and try and hush the conversation and shit. And I'm like, half of probably 80% of pain actually is an emotional response, not an actual physical response. It's the emotional that amplifies the physical symptom, right?
Also, it's a very personal thing to go and see someone for. So I feel like
100%.
being able to make that relationship with that person that you go see would improve the service, because you're like, I have trust in this person. They know me. I know them. They've shared all this with me, that it doesn't feel so vulnerable. It's a very vulnerable, I've thought about it the other day. I was like, getting a massage is putting yourself in one of the most vulnerable positions
you're
you
literally
can
laying
be.
naked on a table while someone touches you.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously underwear and stuff like that. But yeah, basically there's only, maybe one other activity you could do in your life where you're going to be like that. So it's kind of it is 100%.
Yeah, for sure. So I think having someone provide that sort of version of the service would be quite different. It would be oh, this person actually cares, and
kind of break down that barrier. I'm a little bit stressed.
And someone having the how much you talk and give would actually remove the awkwardness of it, because there's so many times if you go to a massage and you're like, I don't know what I'm doing, they haven't told me, they're not talking to me, and you're like, I don't want and you're just overthinking it. But if they're just blah, 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 you'd be like, oh, cool, yeah,
absolutely.
so love that.
And it reduces some of the fakeness, right? Because if you're real with someone, they can then be real with you. Yeah. And then you can actually get to what the actual issue is.
I feel like it's a good way to make people relax too, because their body would work better when they're relaxed.
100%. And so if someone's imagine if they're vigilant, they're sympathetic, we'll call that, two divisions of our automatic nervous system, right? Sympathetic, fight, flight, freeze. Parasympathetic, rest, digest, reproduce, right? Wind down 69. That's how I refer to it.
Wind down 69. Sorry, what?
So rest, digest, reproduce.
Yeah.
Wind down 69. That's your calm nervous system.
69.
Think about it. Yeah, if you wind down 69, you're calm, you're chill. All right.
Gotcha.
Sympathetic, fight, flight, freeze. That's your thing, right? So if someone's vigilant, they're sympathetic automatically. Sympathetic is coupled with high tone. So all tense. Yeah. So for someone to be mentally relaxed, their body has to relax. Every time you touch them, it's not going to hurt so bad.
Yeah.
Obviously, yes, there's going to be pain associated, but it's not going to be as bad because their nervous system, I think of the nervous system as an amp for a guitar, right? You can strike the same chord, but if it's turned at 1, you don't hear much. If it's turned at 10, you hear everything, but you've still done the exact same action. So by someone being chill, anything you do is not going to be so bad. Whereas when they're really stressed, everything you do, they're going to feel it. And they're going to fucking be like, that's way too much. And you're like, I'm not doing anything differently.
Yeah. A big part of your job is making people comfortable.
100%.
So then what was the next step from that? You got full-time books?
I got full-time books and I was booked out, and then I was kind of I was doing 7 days a week, 10-hour days. So 70 hours minimum a week, just treating. And I saw a room pop up in Merriweather, and I was like, okay, I have a decision here. I was like, do I want to take that room and work from there, or do I want to put someone on and have them work from there? I was working from home. People were already happy to see me there. It had been about a year I'd been working at home. So they were already happy to see me. And I was like, cool, let's just do that. So funnily enough, at the time, he's one of my best mates now, Zane. So he came to work for me. And he'd finished his diploma, but wasn't confident enough in starting his own business, but still wanted to learn. And he obviously saw that I'd done a lot of extra study and things like that. And he was like, I want to passively learn from you. So I was like, cool. So I put him in that room, and then I kept working from there. And I think he worked for me for a good 12 to 18 months. Yeah. And so he just churned out clients in that clinic. I turned them out at home. And then I got the place where I'm at now in Lambton. So yeah.
And then did you have Lambton and Merriweather at the same time?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought you did. You had 2 locations.
Yeah. So I had, and then by that time when I had Lambton for about 6 months, I hired another guy, which was George. So he's now doing his own thing as well. They would work out of that room and they would alternate. So when one wasn't in the room, the other one would be. And then I just worked out, like Lambton was always my space. And so the only time we were kind of all together is every Friday I would do like mentoring or something like that with the boys, where we do like a whiteboard session, like, you know, what cases did you see this week that you didn't have answers to? And so that's when we would all be at Lambton, but I primarily treated out of there.
Yeah. So I really want to touch on this because I feel like a lot of our listeners look at growth as, you know, putting on more people, and you work by yourself now. It's just you. So there's different ways to view growth. So although you hired people and got to that point, what made you come back to working alone?
So realistically, I just got to a point and I was like, because in the massage world or manual therapy world, the idea is like you start, you learn, you build a business, you open a clinic, you have people work, and that's your passive income, right? The problem with that is that life happens for people, right? And then their life is unpredictable, which means it's then unpredictable for you. And I never begrudge anybody for taking, like, I'm probably, as far as a boss goes, I'm probably the cruisiest person there is. I'm like, you can set your diary, you work as long as you meet these minimum hours per week. I didn't care if the boys worked 2 hours, 7 days a week or 14 hours in one day. I was like, whatever, do that. And if they needed time off, fine. Time without pay, fine. Like, whatever you need, I'm here to support you, like 100%. But then I started to realize that I was more so managing people rather than building a skill and building all these other things, right? Rather than I was building a network of people rather than myself as an individual, in a sense. Like, I was still studying and things, but I was like, no one that works for you will ever be as passionate about your business as you are. And that's not to throw shade. Exactly right. And I always say, I'm like, I've said to the boys when they started, I was like, if you want to ever go and do your own thing, 100% go and do it. No bad blood, nothing like that. Because you can't expect them to, because you see a very different side of income than they do from that position. So you can't expect there to be the same investment.
Absolutely. And I think, so you got to this point, you had 2 locations, you had staff. You shut one of the locations, you lost all your staff.
So Zane left originally because he made it big in like crypto and stuff. He was always, we used to catch up and do like a Christmas dinner sort of thing, right? Just to say, hey, thanks for the year. Let's go out. Let's go do whatever. And leading up to that, he was constantly just talking about crypto. And I said to him one day, I was like, the fuck are you doing? And he thought I meant like in a bad way, that I was like, you can't be talking about that at work. And I was like, no, man, like if that's what you're talking about, that's your actual passion, man. Like, go do that. I was like, because when I was a mechanic, people would ask me stuff about massage, about their body, and I wouldn't shut the fuck up about it. Ask me about a Detroit engine, I'd be like, I don't know, like whatever, man. Just get me the service manual, I'll go fix it. Like, cool, whatever. But it was what I was passionate about, and so I said to him, I was like, you're done, you're fired. And he was like, what? And I was like, that's it. I was like, because he was planning to have like 2 weeks off for Christmas, I was like, just don't come back. I was like, go do your thing. And he was like, are you serious? Because he kind of felt like when he came with me, he was in a bit of a rough spot, helped him get out. And he kind of felt like he owed me something. I was like, you owe me nothing. Like, I made money off you while you worked for me. You helped me grow my business. You helped me handle the massive influx of clientele that I had. You've done more than enough for me. So I was like, you're fired. Go do what you're actually passionate about.
I love that though, because that's like being able to see what somebody else actually wants to be able to do, but almost like pushing them to go do it. Like, instead of being like, no, I want to keep you because it's beneficial to me. It's like, no, like just go. Like, it's good to be able to have that insight and be able to put that onto somebody else to be like, you don't have to make the decision. I'm making it for you because that's actually what you want to do. Because
if you you know, it's what is it? The old cliche saying, it's like, if you love something, set it free. Like, I love the boys that work for me. They were fantastic, but I was like, you're not going to get as big as you want to be, or like where you want to be in life. You're not going to be able to express yourself in your fullest extent by working for me. You're going to have to do that, doing something for yourself by yourself, because you have to learn that shit.
Yeah, absolutely. So you went through a growth phase and then you dropped down. What was it like shutting that? Were you a little bit rattled when you shut a location off, or was it just normal?
Absolutely, because it was, like you said before, like everybody views growth and progression as more staff, more locations, more staff, more locations, more staff. And like, so for me, it felt like a massive step backwards. Like, I remember I went out and cleaned out the room and I was like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, why am I doing this? Like, I'm now going to be seen as like taking a step backwards, especially like at the time too, there was a lot of hype around it, like you said. That was around those early days when there was a lot of hype. And I was like, if I take this step backwards, people are going to think I'm failing. And that's how I felt. That's 100% how I felt. And obviously I still had George at this point, and then we split the Lambton location. But I then started to, from that, there was a few other people who saw what I had done and they were like, I want to do that. And like, I helped them. There was people who came to me, like there's other therapists in Newcastle who came to me and they were like, how did you get to where you are? And I literally gave them a blueprint. I was like, pay off your debt, don't have any overheads, work out your minimum costs that you need to live per week. That's how many clients you need to book. This is what you need to do, blah, 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 blah. Like, I don't gatekeep. I will tell everyone because it's like...
Hot girls don't gatekeep.
Exactly. Hot girls don't gatekeep. We walk and we drink iced coffee.
We do.
Especially in your business, your B2C, so there's more than enough people.
And that's what I've said to
everyone
people.
can service.
Exactly. And that's
Room
what I
for
said is
everyone.
like, I physically could not treat everyone in Newcastle if I wanted to. I don't have I don't have the hours in the day and I don't have the physical body to do so.
Yeah.
Like nobody does. So I don't see it as competition.
And really, like you got into this to help people. So wouldn't you want more people to be
100%.
helped?
And like,
Yeah.
as long as I could help these guys and then be like, hey, do this, you can raise the standard of care, right? Because then people will start to gravitate, clients will start to gravitate towards them rather than the people who are still like labeling an anterior pelvic tilt as a fucking diagnosis or saying that you need to stretch shit. Like that's pathetic, but that is still out there. So if you can get these people, make them better and get them to a level of understanding where they actually start to make a difference, it makes like, you know, high tides raise ships, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like there's more people out there that are also
100%.
being better
And
therapists.
if I'm booked out, like, and someone messages me and they're in pain,
You've got people you can actually
I
refer.
need to know somewhere to send them to. Like, people still message me like, hey man, not in a rude way. And I'm like, it's never a rude way. Like, yeah, go, I'll send them like their Instagram pages, be like, book in with these people, see if you can get in. And they're like, that's kind of weird. And like, people have been like, hey, thanks for referring me that person. And I was like, I can't treat them. I physically cannot. So
It's like,
why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Love that.
Are you happy that you shut that location?
Hindsight, yes. At the time, no. Absolutely. Like, I'll be honest. It was an emotional thing, right? Like, it feels like you're taking a step backwards, especially too, because at that time, massage kind of comes and goes in waves. And obviously, like, when everyone's in like their hot girl era around summer, flat stick.
Yeah.
When it comes to winter, everybody drops off training. It starts to get slower. Okay. And so like, we want to make sure we're keeping that. But at that time I shut that location, it was also like a downturn.
Yep.
So I was like, fuck, again, like I'm feeling a bit defeated here. Like, what can I do to make this work? But then it was just one of those things where I was like, same thing, wake up every day, 10 toes, go get it done.
How many years in was that?
I think about 2. So about halfway through my journey, technically.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then following that, it was just the Lambton, and then George left.
Yeah, so then George and I like just parted ways. It's all mutual. He wanted to go and do his own thing and explore and things like that. And I was like, yeah, cool, man. That's fine. Like, again, I would never hold anyone to that. But what I realized was through that whole, what I'd realized by that point, I should say, is that I'm okay by myself.
Yeah.
And I can do things. And it's like, why don't I, instead of trying to grow a business that has other people, it's like, why don't I try and grow myself, grow my brand, grow what I can offer, grow what I can do. Because then at least I know, like, because I'm more than happy. And people always ask me this about the mines. They're like, did you want to go and work for yourself because you don't like being told what to do? I'm like, I will absolutely, you can tell me whatever to do and I will do it. Just don't get someone who's dumb to tell me what to do. Because I'm like, I fucking hate that, right? Like, if you don't know what you're doing, don't fucking tell me what to do. So then it's like one of those things where I was like, no, I like to work for myself because everything there is then based off my action. So if something fucks up, cool, I can wear that.
Yeah.
I hated wearing shit when other people fucked up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think with growth, a lot of people forget the responsibility that you withhold. If a staff member makes a mistake, you're the person that has to, forfeit the money or forfeit the complaint. And it's, I think with your brand as well, because it is everyone knows you as Myo.
Yeah.
It's a reflection directly on you.
100%.
And that's really, really hard. So then you started working by yourself, and then you just worked in the clinic by yourself. And this is the time that you started investing all your money into education.
Yeah. All my money I have.
Just like slightly back on that though, talking about like having people working under you and like if somebody does something, then it falls on your brand and your business. Like, I think that's a big thing for a lot of people is when you are looking to hire, you want to make sure that person is a good fit. Like, don't just hire anybody. Like, that would have been a lesson in itself. Like, I know that you sound like you got pretty lucky with like the boys that you had
100%.
and they were great. But like, you hear so many horror stories of like people coming in, taking all your stuff and then just like leaving, like finding out what you do, like all the nitty gritty stuff and then just leaving, or like not getting along, having different personalities. Like,
I think that comes from a place of like people, like we've just been talking about, is like people just see growth as more people.
Yeah.
So they just will take anybody, but they also, I feel like a lot of times people do things out of a place of scarcity, right? They think that nobody will ever apply for that job, that they'll run out of money, that they'll do all these things. So they're willing to say yes to anyone just to be seen as making progress. And like, don't mistake movement for progress.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I made that mistake. Just not even like that, but just like, you know, just I'll add that on because I'll add that service on because someone asked me that. It's not movement.
Exactly.
It's not progress.
And it's just one of those things like people, I guess you can get lucky, but also too, like you can kind of mold someone if you want to, but at the end of the day, there's things you can't teach people. Like, you know, do they clean up? Are they on time? Are they assertive when they're there? Like, are they able to, you know, control the room? Are they able to do those things? They're personality traits.
Yeah.
And so like, that's why I think a formal interview, like whenever I've interviewed these guys, it was like, let's get a coffee. Let's just go chat.
Yeah.
Because you can tell more about a person. Like, because I can teach you how to rub people. I can teach you how to assess someone. I can't teach you how to have an ethic or.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard? Okay, this is like soft topic. Well, it's not, but it is. I was talking to Jays about this. When you're like interviewing someone for a role, it's super, super common for a boss to take someone to a bar with them.
Yeah.
To see how they interact after a drink or two.
Yeah.
Because that's when their defenses are down.
Yeah.
It's super common to, like in the corporate world, it's super common to do this because it actually shows you how they act and what they're like, and that's your true indicator over a professional interview.
Actually, I did hear something on this. Like, it's like in a book that I'm reading, and it was like you want to see how people act when you think they're not looking.
Yeah.
How they act to people that aren't important. Is like, just because they can be good to you, they could be putting on an act and putting on a show, but you want to be able to see what they're like behind closed doors.
Yeah.
I think as well, something that is high risk in your industry is that it's so vulnerable. So no matter what, you could have the most perfect employee, but because people are in pain, you're touching people as well. There's going to be issues that you can't eradicate it. It's a high risk.
And that's,
industry.
I do like obviously mentoring with therapists and stuff now. And probably the one golden thing that I tell them every single time it's like our first mentoring session, because they obviously then come to me, they feel overwhelmed with the level of information I provide them with, because they're like, I didn't understand half this shit. And then I'm like, fake it till you make it, honestly. Like go in that room and act like you know everything about fucking everything. Mainly because that will put that person's nervous system in more of a calm state, because they're coming to you with an issue and you're acting like, I can fucking handle this with my eyes shut, right? So then that automatically they go, this is the person that I need to see.
Do you find that some customers that because I know that you've got a lot of recurrings now, so it's kind of just working with friends.
Yeah.
But do you find a lot of people come to you with pessimism? Because there's something that you said to me a few months ago, and it was when people have an injury, they think they have it for life.
Yeah.
Do you get a lot of pessimism around, you can't fix me? And is that hard to bridge that?
90% of us will go through life and we'll just be average, right? We'll earn a modest income, we'll have a house, dog, car, kid, you know, spouse, whatever. He said, but humans are designed to be pack creatures. Like we like to interact and be with other humans. But he's like, we also want to identify as being different, to be seen as different with everybody else. The upper, 5% is your Jeff Bezos, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, all those people. You can't identify through them through, I guess, subjective measures. You have to be through objective, like what's your yearly income, all that sort of stuff. So what people then start to do is identify through their pain, their disabilities or their dysfunctions, like the lower 5%. So people that are born blind, people that are born deaf, people that have, some sort of maybe spinal bony growth from birth that affects how they move. And so people start to identify through their pain as being different.
Yeah.
So it becomes like an identity. And so sometimes the pessimism comes from either two things. It's either they have that identity and they use that as a thing like, oh, hey, do you want to come? I can't because of my back, or I can't because of this, like, because I'm different, I can't do that. Then it comes from the other sense of they've seen that many people who are actually shit. And that's the belief pattern they now, like that's the schema and thought process and belief systems they now have.
Yeah.
And so it's very hard to break that. And this is where pain is like more psychological than it is physiological every day of the week. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when you said that to me, and I'm a victim of it, so I have lower back pain. I'm like, that's just me. And you're like, no, it's not.
Yeah,
like, you can fix it.
But I guess it's one of the, what is it called when it's confirmation bias?
Yeah.
And they look for everything to just keep confirming that thought that they have. And they'll just, continue to be like, no, I saw that person, I don't have it, so it's never going to get fixed. And then they'll just always, and then they don't fix the issue that's causing it, so it will keep causing it. And then it just goes around in circles.
And this is something, a conversation I had with my coach the other day that actually took a lot of stress off me, because I feel like in the last maybe month or so, it was just like everything I touched turned to shit. And I was like, what is happening here? Like, what is going on? And I had to take a step back, and he was kind of like, look, it's a 50-50 partnership, right? He's like, people come to you thinking you're the solutions to their problems. He's like, they're just as much the solution as you are. And that took a lot of stress off me, because I can do the massage, I can give you the rehab, I can do all that. But like, whether you do that with intent and whether you follow what I say and whatever else, like I can give you the tools, but I can't do it.
Yeah.
And so it's a thing that I usually talk about with other therapists too, is I'm like, if you go to the doctor with a cut on your finger, it's like, does the doctor put the Band-Aid on it and that's what heals it? Or is it your body that heals it? And so it's like, it's just as much them as it is the external environment. All we do is put people in the perfect environment for them to get out of pain. Whether they then decide to do that or not, that's completely up to them.
Yeah.
You can
And
lead
it's
a
the
horse
same with
to
you
water.
guys, right? Like, you can coach people to how to grow a business, but if they don't do those weekly actionables, they don't manage shit, you could be the best business coach in the world and they're still going to not make any progress because they're not doing their part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make a drink.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So then let's jump back into the journey. So you work by yourself.
Yep.
What was next?
So then I started to try and getting into like the online coaching space.
Yep.
Through the mentorship that I'd done originally, that taught me how to program, and then even went through like business components, like how to onboard people, how to create forms, how to do all this sort of thing. So I saw that as my next step, because I was like, I want to write the programs for people so I can change this behavior that we kind of spoke about before. Because at the moment I'm changing pain. So I was like, that just made sense. Let's do that. The problem I faced with that was that I'm viewed as the massage therapist and not the gym guy, right? Because like, you don't go to your massage therapist if you want abs and fucking pecs and big arms, right? You go to a coach who has pecs, abs and big arms. Like, that just makes sense, right? And so that was hard to differentiate. But what started to happen is I was just like, okay, let's make these adjustments to your programs. Like, let's order these exercises differently, see how that feels with your pain. Because what I was doing was just crossing over, like, massage is just putting movement into people. I manually do it. So like, I do it for them.
Yeah.
The gym is then them moving themselves. The action or the movement is still the same. It's just via different means. So when I explain it to people, it's like, you come in here, it's like me pushing your car down the road versus you driving it.
Yeah.
It's like, we're still going forward. We're still moving forward. The car's still rolling. But it's like, when it's in here, I'm giving you a push. We're getting it started. Then once you go, you drive it down the road.
Yeah. In terms of like the programming that you say you do for people, were you looking at doing like normal gym programs or are they like rehab specific or like?
Yeah. So see, this is actually like a very common misconception, is that people think there's like corrective exercise and gym training. Gym training is just exercising correctly.
Yeah.
If you do it right. Okay. There are, yes, entry-level remedial drills you can do to get someone moving at a very low level. But it's like, at the end of the day, the gym is just rehab on steroids. That's all it is.
Yeah, okay.
It's just like, because I could give someone, like a Copenhagen plank, so like a leg plank for their adductor, or they could just go do a good girl machine.
Yeah.
Fine. Same thing.
Oh, what?
Good girl?
Good girl machine.
Adduction.
Adduction,
Seated
abduction. So
adduction?
good girls, bad girls.
Oh my God.
Have you never heard that?
Have you not heard good girl, bad girl?
Good girls, bad girls.
So good girl is adduction and bad girl is abduction.
Is that a thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's called the good girl, bad girl
Yeah,
machine.
good girl, bad, because it's abduction. It's like abduction or adduction. So it's like, people always, and I'll program it adduction, and they're there doing this, and I'm like, what the fuck are you doing?
Wow.
Go the other way. So to clear it up, it's like good girls, bad girls.
So I always know when I did like mine, what abduction and adduction. Adduction, you're adding towards your center of gravity. Abduction, you're abducting away, like you're being
Getting
abducted.
abducted.
So adding is always the movement in, and abduction is always the movement away.
Literally.
Yeah. There you go. It makes sense. Good girl, bad girl.
So like, let's just touch on this briefly, right? The best cue you can give someone is the one they understand.
Yeah.
So you send someone into a gym, you go to the good girl machine.
I'm
They're
never
like,
going to forget that now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? They're
Ever.
never going to forget it. Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
It's another, like for hinging, I'll say, shoot a bullet out of your ass. And you know what? But watch this, right? Next time you go and do an RDL, think about you're trying to literally open your ass and shoot a bullet out of it and watch how much better your hinge feels. Yeah.
Love that. Look, we love analogies here. So, yeah, you could give me the most amount of analogies and I will love them.
I feel like a bit of a nun over here.
Literally.
No, I love that.
Cool. So you went into the online coaching world.
Yep.
And then this is 3 years in now.
Yeah, about 3 years in. Yeah. So 4, yeah. So yeah, probably been coaching for about 12 months now. Yeah.
So you more so do like somebody will come to you instead of like giving them, if they want a brand new program, you would like give them a brand new program. But if they're coming to you with pain, you could be like, what's your program look like? Like, can we tweak
100%.
it? Like, show me that movement or
100%.
like, okay.
Yeah. So I can do either, right?
Yeah.
Because I can either take your current program and be like, hey, like, because even just through ordering exercises, right? Because exercises can have primary, secondary, and tertiary benefits. And this is something I cover with people. It's like, to do a hinge, you need a lot of hip internal rotation. So you need to be able to like do the good girl, right? You put someone on the good girl machine before they hinge and they're like, oh my God, my back pain went away. And it's like, because you've lengthened and then loaded those adductors before they've then gone into the hinge, they now have the pelvic stability. They're not trying to find it through their lower back, all these sorts of things. So like sometimes it's not even about writing a whole new program. It's like, just do this before you do this.
Yeah.
And then that opens that range, right? A good one for, you see everyone at the gym, they do that fucking like external cable.
Oh, yeah. With the,
Like, and that's like, don't get me wrong.
or with the dumbbell.
Yeah. And that doesn't work because what people forget is gravity goes this way.
Yeah.
And they go like this. And I'm like, are you just inventing your own fucking gravity? Like, sorry, that doesn't work. But yeah, so like what I would typically do is like people do this cable external rotation. I'm like, why don't you high cable bicep curl? You're going to get external rotation. You're going to get supination. You're going to train the bicep, which is a stabilizer of the shoulder in the overhead. So like I've never met someone with a shit shoulder that has massive arms, because what people forget is like the arms, biceps, triceps are stabilizers of the shoulder in the overhead. So I will give them like a high cable bicep curl rather than this fucking thing. It's doing the same thing, but with more benefit. And people go, oh, that's sick because it's also training my biceps. Perfect.
Great.
That's how you get buy-in. Yeah.
Right.
Love that.
I feel like this, again, knowing your company, like your business very well, I feel like this was the start of your journey of trying to bridge the gap between massage and movement.
Yep. 100%.
And this is how you first tried to navigate it.
Yeah, exactly. And it was just it took a lot of study, to be honest, because it was, you learn from like massage side of things, this is how we do this. Then you learn from like bodybuilding coaching side of things, this is how we do this. And then I just started to be like, how do I, like that kind of looks like that. And then I can bridge those two together and it's the same thing. And so that's why I wanted to get into it, because I was like, people, and this is where like a gap was, right? Is that people go and do these like entry level foam roller fucking yoga block drills. They do that for like 6 weeks. And then they go and try and lift in the gym. They go back to like 120 kilo fucking hinge. And they're like, my back hurt again. And I'm like, well, how heavy is the foam roller versus how heavy is that fucking hinge? It's like, can we do some stuff in between there to maybe, grade exposure? Because that's literally all rehab is it's like, think about a phone book, right? So we're all old enough to know what a phone book is, right? I actually had a client in the clinic she was 21 and I said a phone book and she's like, a what? And I was
like the contacts app on my phone.
I was like, I know I have no hair, but like, give me something to work with you. I'm not that old yet, right? Like, fuck. And anyway, like with a phone book, right? So like S would be, maybe 70% of the way through the alphabet. If you want to look at exercising in the same light, it's like, okay, if I was going to go to a phone book and I was going to look up S, I don't go A, that's not it. B, that's not it. C, that's not it. I kind of go, I'm going to open it to about there. And then I'll go backwards or forwards a few pages, right? Exercise is the same. If you can't do, say, a barbell hinge, why don't we give you like a dumbbell hinge?
Yeah.
Can't do that. Maybe dumbbell hinge with an adductor squeeze with a foam roller. Try and keep the pelvis stable. It's like then what we start to do is like, which one do you get pain on? Barbell hinge, out of the question. Dumbbell hinge, still a bit irritating. Dumbbell hinge with adductor squeeze, I can do that. Okay, sweet. That's your new starting point. Okay.
Yeah.
Then we just start, that's like going back to, you know, skipping back a few pages. Then we're going to try and get to S. Yeah. So it's just a regression model.
Instead of going, oh, I didn't find S on the first go, so I'm going to start again at A.
Yeah, but it's like, that's what they do, right? Is they go, oh, heavy hinge, S, that hurt my back. Then they go, I'm going to go and fucking roll on a foam roller like a dugong at fucking SeaWorld in the back at EMF somewhere, right? That's what they do. And then they go, I still don't know why my back hurts. And I'm like, I do. Because you're going from like this that has no load, no action, no real benefit to now going to this heavy barbell that's just fucking you up.
And that's the major gap.
And that was the gap.
Recovery exercises don't have load.
Exactly.
And they need to have load.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And graded exposure, right? You just don't go 0 to 100. It's like, let's go 0 to 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then I feel like that's where I came into your life.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was kind of like at a point where I was trying to do coaching. I didn't know how to market it, right? Because that was not my thing. I was actually feeling, just before I met you, I was fucking lost. I was. And like, I will hand on heart say that like you are one of the best things that ever happened to my business outside of my own effort.
Love
But
that.
you were honestly like my saving grace and have been since day dot. I had all this knowledge. It was like having a fucking Ferrari engine in a Daihatsu Charade with fucking broken brakes and a fucking oil leak. Because I was like, I'm going to do this thing. This bitch is probably going to catch fire, but we're going to fucking do it.
But we will get there.
Yeah, we'll get there eventually. But then you were like, you come along and you were like, hey, let's take this Ferrari engine and actually put it in a fucking Ferrari, right? And that's what
let's
it was
just
for
see
me.
what happens.
Yeah, and let's see what happens. Then all of a sudden I had control, but I could go 200 kilometers an hour.
Yeah.
Like that's what it was like for me. So
Yeah, I feel like that was really sweet. And it's a lot for me to take on.
yeah, we know like we can compliment each other, but we can't take compliments. That's fun. That's so fun.
But I think as well, like the last year, there's been a lot that we've gone through together and endured. The number one thing is you've put complete trust in me with your business.
100%.
Like I know it inside out. But now coming to the end of this journey, and in the last 12 months, there's been lots of things that we've like, you know, ups and downs. It hasn't been
absolutely.
linear. And I feel like a lot of the time it's just been more soundboard.
100%.
A lot of soundboard and a lot of chats. But to now come to where we are, you're celebrating a huge milestone.
Yeah, so it's not 100% set in stone.
It will be by the time this episode is out.
Yeah, it will be. But so basically what I'm going to do is I've now got a like an industrial shed, but it has an office mezzanine fit out up top and then something downstairs. Yeah. And so again, what was the biggest limiting factor, I guess, to like when I met you as well, and then what we kind of have been discovered and like what has kind of been a recurring theme was that I've just outgrown the space that I'm in.
Yeah, and there was a lot of trial and error, and it really comes back to that bridging that gap problem. Like the multiple different things were like, let's try this, let's try this, let's try this. And then it was removing things, and then some things needed to happen in order for you to realize. And there was just one thing after the next. And after the entire 12-month process, we've finally gotten to the point where you're like, wow, I know exactly what I need to do now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think this like shed space, given that it's like I was doing like seminars out of like Air Locker at Katara. So like obviously shout out Golo, Sam, legend, like allowed me to use the space, gave up his Sundays to open it so I could teach people about this stuff. I do online mentoring, obviously trying to do content and stuff like that as well, trying to get that point across. But the problem is that I was like in a clinic where I could only do massage things. Then I'd have to go to someone's gym and try and do gym things. And then I'd have to go to Air Locker and try and do a seminar. And I'd have to I had a different location for everything. And like everybody who believed in me obviously put their places up. We're like, yep, come use it, whatever. Like we know what you can do. But now it's getting to a point where I'm going to have that all in one place, and that's going to be like my space. And
that's so exciting.
Cool.
That's really cool. Love that.
So I'm looking forward to it because same thing like with the podcast, like I've started that up, like my one. And at the moment where I am, I have to pack it up and do that every time I want to use it. And it's just it's just more roadblocks in the way or more friction to what I actually just want to do. And if that friction's removed, it takes the thought out of it, which means I can just do it.
But we had to exhaust all the resources to get to that point.
100%. And like that's
exhaust all resources. And now you have the ability to bridge that gap because you're going to have equipment downstairs. So when you go for a massage and you're like, my lower back hurts when I do a deadlift, you can be like, all right, let's go downstairs, get some load on the bar and let's actually have a look how it works.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're able to actually do that, which I think is just going to be
I think
incredible.
tabletop assessments that you learn typically if you go to like uni or something like that, they don't have a lot of validity because usually you have to have like 5 that test positive to then say this person has this. And I'm like, that's time wasted. Yeah. That's so much time. It's like everything's an assessment. If I have, whether I have someone who comes in and says, when I do a deadlift, my back hurts, or I have a mum that comes in and says, when I carry 3 bags of groceries, my shoulder hurts. I'm like, okay, I literally go out like where I am now. I go out, I have 3 plastic bags and I'll just fill it with shit. And I'm like, all right, carry this. And I see how they move and do all that. Because like, that's going to have the most crossover to real life. Yeah. Right? If I just get them, I'm like, oh, what's your range of motion like? It's like, who fucking cares?
Yeah.
My shoulder hurts when I lift groceries, but also too, the end goal is then to have them carry 3 bags of groceries, not have a fucking sore shoulder. Same as for the person with the deadlift. It's like they should be able to deadlift again.
Yeah. I love that though, because like at least having the equipment there and like available, like I know that like I've gone to like a physio before and they've like told me to do exercises, but they don't have the things for me to actually do it in front of them. So then I'm like, am I even doing this right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like I'm like, I could be doing the work, the exercises that they've told me to do, but I could be doing them completely wrong. Yep. So having all of the equipment there would be great because like people need to like do it.
Yeah, exactly. Humans, we are like predominantly visual creatures, right? Like we take in 60 to 70% of our sensory input. So like our body's awareness of where we are in space through the visual field. Like if it was a dog, it would be through its nose, right? It sniffs shit. So what happens, right, is that when you do that...
sorry, you were just so quick to the point with these things. Like, how do you think of this?
What do you mean? Yeah. I've done a lot of
Your analogies are just like that.
Yeah. So I just, but like when I think about it, it's like we do that. So the best way to show someone something or to get them to do it right is mirror. Yeah. That is always like the number one, right? And this is like, do it in front of them and be like, this is how you do it. Watch me. Then watch me while you do it.
Yeah.
And then that's how humans learn best.
Yeah, love that. Because like I know people say like, oh no, I'm an auditory learner or blah, blah. And like I know I've heard something before that like all of those things are like pretty bullshit. But like everybody imagines everything differently. Like you can tell, think of a tree. Everyone's going to imagine a different tree in their head. So like telling someone to do a movement. What kind of tree do you
think of when you say tree?
Oh, like the apple trees off like Mario, like the Yoshi trees with like the little apples. That's what I think.
I think of like a big green bush on top.
I think of like a full fucking oak tree, like a real big like Lord
I'm
of the
living
Rings
in like imaginary cartoon land, apparently.
Literally. But yeah.
But anyway, so everybody can imagine. Anyway, moving on, like nothing happened. So like just telling people to do things is not going to work because everybody will think of it differently.
Exactly right.
So being able to be like, this is it.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. And so that's going to be the best part because like even in the gym, right, and this is like something you can take away with people. If you're a coach or a trainer and someone doesn't get an exercise, get them to do it in the mirror. Then the progression isn't necessarily like more load, more reps. It's like now can they do it without? 2 very different stimulus. 2 very different stimulus. And like that's a very big overlooked part of training. Like you see PTs in gyms with new clients and they're like, now let's raise our arm up. And they're just facing them. There's no mirrors. And they're just like, and they fucking throw their arm out to the side or some shit.
Like they don't know their body.
They don't know, they don't know where it is. And it's like, okay, put them in a mirror. And then you know what the best part about a mirror is? You can stand right next to them and be like, arm up, arm down.
So I'm guessing you'll get mirrors fitted in the new.
Yeah, that's more so for personal use, isn't it? Really, like just to look at myself every day. I will. Yeah, absolutely, because it's one of the most underlooked or underrated tools that you can have in a gym is a mirror.
I guess that's a pretty good thing to say, like, because I know a lot of our listeners would be like coaches. So being an online coach would be hard in that way as well for like getting people to perform movements, like, and they're online, like that would be hard. So obviously it's a big thing for coaches to get their clients to film themselves and stuff like that to send to them. And but I guess that's a good kind of tip from you is like them also performing the movement to show them what it looks like. And
exactly right.
Yeah.
I think like if you work in the online space, you better make sure you're really fucking good in real life first. Yeah. Because in real life, it was the same as for me with the transition going from like massage to rehab and stuff because I'd done it online. It was like I can put someone's leg wherever I want it to when I can touch them.
Yeah.
But when I can't, what cue or what environmental feedback can I give them to be like, this is what I want you to do?
Yeah.
Because the amount of times I've given someone a cue that I would give them in the clinic and then I've tried that online and it's just shit the bed. And I'm just like, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I
like
think
coaches wanting to jump from being certified to being an online coach. No, you have to put in the in-person work.
I think in any business you need to pay your dues.
100%.
You need to do the groundwork. You need, because again, when you're on the floor, them split-second decisions is what is going to make you
100%.
a really fantastic online coach or a really fantastic business owner. And it's, you know, being like a business consultant, you need to run a business in order to know the problems that arise with that particular business. So I think it's a matter of paying your dues.
Yeah,
You have to.
for sure.
100%. And like, you have to be able to like action what you say.
Yeah.
Because I would never, I've always kept this ever since I learned like dry needling. I've had every muscle you can possibly dry needle. Like I've had my face, my jaw, my feet, hips.
I love getting my
everything.
jaw dry needle.
Yeah,
Oh.
it's unreal. It's so good. But I do that, and there's certain needles I don't do on people. And they're like, oh, my old physio used to needle this. And I was like, how'd you enjoy that? And they're like, it was fucking shit. And I was like, yeah, that's why I don't do it. Because I've had it done to me, and I would never do that to myself again. Like, horrendous. So, yeah, I think you have to come from a place of experience first. Because, again, as we were talking about at the start, like, pain or whatever can be like more psychological than it is physiological.
Yeah.
It's like, if you don't understand what that person's going through, how are you actually going to give them the most effective plan possible?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I can relate to that a lot in business.
Yeah.
Like a month ago, before I went on holidays and then was sick and almost died. So sick. Before I went on holidays, we had a conversation and I kind of said to you, no, like this is going to happen. And you were like, what do you mean? And I was like, I can see past what you're going through because I've been in it. And then yesterday you were like, you were right.
Yeah, literally. And half the time, like, I feel like you're like a cheaper version of my therapist in a sense, because I feel like 90% of my issues is just me coming to you going, Ash, is this all right? And you're like, yeah, duh, it's all right. Like, it's
but
okay.
you need that in business because
100%.
you need someone who is not involved in it. Yep. And like, there's been so many times where, you know, I know you don't mind me talking about it, but that you've been going through it.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm just like, it's fine. Like, it's going to be fine.
Yep.
Like, I've been through this. Like, this is what's going to happen. This is what we can do. And you need someone like that. Otherwise, it's going to get to the point where you can't do it anymore.
Literally. Oh, I will be the first to say I definitely don't have like the perfect business, right? It's not about that at all.
No one does.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
Exactly. And I just feel like if you're not going through it, are you really making progress?
Yeah.
Because I've noticed upon reflection and whatever else, and obviously conversations with you too, every time it's felt like it really fucking sucks and you want to almost can it and just put it in the bin.
Yeah.
It then ends up becoming
good,
like the best thing ever if you just give it enough time.
Yeah.
100%.
Got to go through it to grow through it.
You.
Yeah, literally.
It's got to test you. Business is not easy. It's not for the faint-hearted.
No, that's it.
So
And like
hard.
if you're not willing to, I think a lot of people get into business for themselves going, I'm going to get into business because it's going to be cruisier.
Yeah.
I reckon working for yourself is one of the most overrated fucking things on the face of the earth. Like, give me
That's
back
why
mining.
I won't do it.
Literally. But give me back mining where it was like clock on at 6, clock out at 6 and go home and just switch off.
That's what it's funny you say that. I miss leaving my responsibilities at the door, but I also wouldn't trade this life for anything.
And that was it. Like
once you get the taste of that 1% that's so good, you're like, the other 99,
you're like, I built this.
This
is my baby. I did this.
I reckon that's how heroin feels. Like,
it's honestly an addiction that like, it's so hard putting out all these fires and then you get that one little bit and you're like,
you're like in an emotionally abusive relationship. like
100%.
Like a nigger. You guys are with a nigger. It's like a nigger. It's like bad, but they give you that little glimpse of hope and you're like, I'm back in.
Yeah, you're like, let's go. Yeah, 100%. It is the most toxic relationship you'll ever have. But
the most like rewarding at the same time.
It's not for the faint.
No,
but I reckon that's what separates like somebody having a good business that they work on and does well and it grows and they work on it is like somebody who can't put in the grunt work and they like fall over at the sign of hardship and they're like, nah, and they just
and
give
it's
up,
okay.
So.
It's okay if that's you. Like if you're listening to this, that's okay.
But that's a lesson learned that it's not for you.
Yeah.
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 There's been days where I'm like, I could easily go back to a 150K a year salary and just cruise in the mines.
Yeah.
100%. Like I could do it. But I wouldn't have the same level of reward. that I do.
You'd be
And I feel
unhappy
like-
going every day,
exactly. And I feel like you get into business for other people, not for yourself.
Yeah, I feel like every conversation you have, you always come back to the fact, I just want to help people.
Yep, 100%.
And this is the way that you're helping people.
Yep.
Love that.
So yeah, it's been, I really love talking about your journey because you went through so much for 4 years and now you're finally starting to see the tunnel, like the light at the end of the tunnel, which is super exciting. And you also have courses.
Yeah. So obviously I got to a point where I started to realize in the industry there's people who are really smart, but they can't articulate it. And then there's people who can articulate things really well. They're not very smart. I kind of was able to find that middle ground, whereas I think because of the background I had as being a mechanic and then doing as much study as I have, I can explain highly complex topics very simply and use analogies, things like that, things that make it relatable for people. And that is obviously, I don't believe it, but I have you telling me, I've had multiple other people telling me, other therapists that are
You're very engaging.
Yeah, very engaging in that you can take these things and they're like, I thought I would never learn that because I didn't understand it. And this is one of the analogies that I'm proudest of, but not at the same time, was there was a guy at the gym who was doing a split stance squat, supersetting that with a clamshell walk. And I was when I spoke to these guys, I was the split squat is function and the clamshell is action. So it's action before function, right? So warm the muscle or activate the muscle before you then integrate it as a part of a system.
You know how to talk to lay people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you should always, it was one thing that I learned from someone, they're you should have a handgun, a shotgun and a fucking rocket launcher. Mm-hmm. They're so if you want to talk to, Colleen who comes in, 50-year-old in accounting, it's handgun for her. All right. But if you go and talk to a surgeon or a sports doctor, it's you better go in there with a fucking grenade launcher. Otherwise, you're not even going to look that sideways.
Yeah.
And so, with the courses, that's the idea is I wanted to create, I looked at the framework of massage, assessment, treatment, rehab. Yep. It's assess someone, get them moving, then help them move themselves. Then I just created courses around that because it was all the stuff, like I said, I want to just help people. That's it. Yeah. And I know what I had to go through as far as learning from the right people, learning from the wrong people, all that sort of stuff. I was I'm going to condense all the best bits, put it into a course. And I'm not saying that's the only course you'll ever need to do because it's fucking not by a long shot. But if you are someone starting within the industry or someone who's feeling a bit lost, like I have at fucking multiple points, depending on which point you're feeling lost at, there's a course for it.
So is this more lost with programming?
Lost with anything.
Yeah.
So if you were you could assess someone and you could treat them, but you didn't know the exercise, there's an exercise course.
Yeah.
If you don't know how to assess someone, so you're kind of going in blind with your treatment and then just giving them some exercises, there's an assessment course.
Yeah.
If you want to learn how massage and manual therapy actually works and ways to manipulate it and not just do the general sequence thing that they teach you in college, it's then there's the massage course. Yeah. And so realistically, the goal is once I have it all done, if you're a day one therapist, you could do all 3 courses within a year and you could come out and be extremely confident. Yeah. And you could be able to take someone from walking in pain to in the gym training with no pain within doing those courses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that.
Because at the end of the day, that's what it is, right?
Yeah. It's leveling up that quality.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know that we're going to have a lot of therapists listen in because obviously we're going to collab with you.
Yeah.
But our audience is coaches.
Yeah.
And so I kind of want to give you the stand on how you can assist coaches with their concerns or how they can actually come and work with you.
Okay. Yeah. So probably one of the biggest things through both therapists and coaches, the common point is that they don't understand how people move. They know, coaches know how to prescribe reps and sets to get bigger muscles. Therapists know how to, touch people and get them moving more freely. And so you have coaches who refer to therapists and therapists that refer to coaches and so on and so forth. And it's the linchpin between those two things is understanding how people move. Yeah. And so if you say, for an example, thoracic rotation, so rotating through the mid-back, you can do that I could mobilize that person. So I can physically push them into thoracic rotation, or they could do a single arm dumbbell row because when they reach down, they're still getting that thoracic rotation. Okay. Same thing, 2 different worlds, one principle in the middle. It's does this person need thoracic rotation? Yes or no? How do you do that? that's why there's not as big a gap as what people think.
So they could book a call with you and bring you a case study and
Absolutely.
say, this is my
so
client.
They could say to me, like, this is my client. And like I said before, I could give them in the clinic, I could mobilize their hip to internal rotation. The coach could put them on the good girl machine.
Yeah.
And so coaches think, oh, he's a massage therapist. What could he teach me? It's like, I can teach you how people move because all you do is move people with weights in their hands. The massage therapist just moves people with other things in their hands.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing that I'm trying to cover at the moment is being like, I know how people move. I also have experience with training and I have experience as being a massage therapist. I've done both. And that's the base principle I always come back to is like how people move and then their nervous system too. Like just learning, you know, is this person in a point of their life where they are ready to learn a new skill, or is there a way that we can teach them these things? But even as far as coaches go, like a lot of coaches don't understand the thing about like the mirror, right? So there's a whole brain component to that, which is, you know, if you want to get someone knowing how to move better, give them a med ball load for their split squats instead of a dumbbell, because then you block their field of view to their foot. They can't see it. They then have to learn how to move through that pattern proficiently. That can be a way to get someone rehabbed because naturally they're going to underload that. But then it's like now we're teaching them how to move through their foot. Now they can't see it. It's like training in a mirror versus without a mirror. It's that same thing again. So the brain, two major functions as humans is walking and breathing. Everything else we do outside of that is just an expression of how we move when we walk and breathe. So I understand that to a T. The gym is just walking and breathing with weights in your hand. Therapy is just walking and breathing on a table.
Yeah, so they could just say, you know, this is a client. What? Because you have a lot of people that do that anyways.
100%.
Yeah.
So like even at the moment, right? So I program for two people who are coached by someone who's like quite large in the industry, has a very big business. And he asked me to do their programming.
Yeah.
Because he's like, you understand their injuries, and he's like, you understand the deeper complexity of like exercise selection. So rather than looking at like a hamstring curl as growing a hamstring, I look at a hamstring curl as it can grow a hamstring. It can also increase tibial rotation. It can increase hip rotation. It can lengthen the glutes to decompress the lower back. So then it's like maybe this person with back pain gets a seated hamstring curl before they do their leg workout. So I can help. Like that's the thing is like, it's not a conflict of interest. It's like I can just teach you how to program better to keep people out of pain. Because at the end of the day, I don't give a fuck if it's you or me doing it. I just don't want that person to be in pain.
Yeah, like you're kind of there helping to make sure that that client actually has longevity in the training that they're doing.
100%.
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to...
Which in turn helps them to have a client for longer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is the thing, right? Is like I'm not going to be like, I'm a prep coach because I understand anatomy and physiology. Why? Because I've never done a fucking prep. I'm not going to claim I'm a prep coach. Can I help someone in prep who might be having a niggle understand, like, do I understand nutrition as far as recovery goes? Absolutely. That's part of what I do. It's like, so I can say, hey, have you tried this intra-workout? Have you put this in your pre? Have you eaten this over the day? Then do this exercise, do this, do this, do this. That's what leads to the rehab of the client. And then they can still keep progressing towards their goals. You do your thing, I'll do mine. That's fine.
Yeah. That's awesome. I think it's such a great tool for coaches to have in their toolkit is just to be able to go to someone and say, these are the problems my customer's having.
But that's like, I'm
feeling a bit lost.
Yeah, but I'm not going to go and study how to put someone through a comp prep and then say that's what I do.
Yeah.
I'm like, you can do that. That's fine.
You're not allowed to study anymore.
Yeah, I know.
Literally. Ban on it.
But yeah, and so like, but I can help them do those things, right? So yeah.
Why did you put a ban on it? Just
because it was fucking ridiculous.
We're working on increasing profit. You don't mind if I talk about it?
No, go for it.
We're working on increasing profit. I was like, what is this? It was like, what was it? Like
30 something.
$38,000. And I was like, you're on a ban. You are not allowed to study anymore. You're not allowed to do anything. That's it. We're done.
Like it's like you want to study to grow your knowledge to be able to grow your business, but it's like probably grow the business first and then you could probably look at doing more after
that was the thing, right? It's like, because I had a bit of I originally went back to uni a couple of years ago. That was probably we missed to study chiropractic. And I ended up in hospital with adrenal fatigue, collapsed. And because I was like, working in the clinic, trying to grow online, travel down to Sydney to go to uni, come back. I ended up, I was like sleeping on the train, doing assessments on the train, all this sort of stuff. And then when I was in hospital, I actually like was sitting there going, what do I actually want to do here? Like, what am I trying to do? And that was where I came to the conclusion, like, I just want to help people. I can do that in a very different capacity to what I do now. But then I was like, well, how do I get the answers? Go and study. And so I get this all the time is like people go, oh, you're not a physio. You can't fucking have an opinion on that. And I'm like, okay, how much did your degree cost you? Because I was like, I've probably spent the same, to be completely honest with you, if not more. So
And learned a lot of different fields.
Well, I got to, this is another thing too, just like quickly, is like that coaches assume or people assume that going to uni makes you good. Uni makes you safe. It doesn't make you good. And
Practice makes you good.
Exactly. Practice makes you good. And so what they spend, and I'm absolutely not discrediting uni degrees at all.
Yeah.
If that's a field you want to work in and you have to do that, go do it. But understand that like when you go to uni, they teach you what you have to learn. I went out and paid for it through different people and I learned what I wanted to learn.
Yeah.
So that's how I've put myself into a niche, was by learning things that surrounded the problems that I was facing with the people that I wanted to work with.
Yeah.
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 No, that's cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, but enough.
Excessively, yeah, excessively. And like it does actually, like I'm big on this now, is like, you know, earn, don't learn.
Yeah.
Like you can learn so much, but there starts to become, and even this is a conversation that you obviously had with me, was like, it starts to reach a point of like a negative investment. Because how much more do I need to know? If I'm already sorting all the issues that I am faced with, primarily 99% of the time, right? How much more do I need to know?
I feel like for you, it was more, you were learning so much that you were like, how do I use this? And it's like, we need to go back to square one.
Yeah. And that's the other thing too, is like when you do a course, I have seen it now. There's a course that I done probably about 12 months ago that I'm only just realistically, now I've put it into practice so many times, I now actually know it back to front.
Yeah.
I didn't back then. I learned it and I was like, this is really cool, but I had no way to fucking apply it. So like, rather than going what I did and go course to course to course to course to try and justify and like get this list of shit to say like, you know, fucking humble brag, flex on everyone. Here's my list. It's like, learn it, put it into practice. Once you have it back to front, go do something else.
Yeah.
Because I understand, like, and I can get it because therapists come to me with this all the time and coaches and stuff. And they're like, how do you know what to study? I'm like, just pick something, study it, and then see where that leads you.
Yeah.
Whereas if you just keep trying to chuck shit on top, you're not actually leading yourself anywhere.
Yeah.
You're just walking around in fucking circles.
I think that's something as well that people get caught up in, is they think that they have to do all of these courses, or they think like, oh, I have to continually learn, so I have to do a course for it. And then like, oh, I want to know about this, so I have to do a course for it. And it's like, well, if you just look into it, learn about it, like
There's different ways to learn.
Yeah. And also like making sure that you're actually going to want to use that stuff in a course. Like, don't just sign up to it. Like, make sure that you're actually going to want to learn and use it and stuff like that.
But I have not done a business course. I was just like, I'm going to go and who's successful? Who does shit in the same area that I want to do shit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, there's your answer.
I was going to say, like, courses have time and place, and I got a lot of time for them. But having someone that you can soundboard on is more important than a course.
100%.
Because you learn so much more from it.
And I think the other thing too is why people do courses, especially in like this whole Instagram era, which I'm not against, because obviously it's how I built myself, but they want a course so then if someone comes at them and says you're doing this wrong, they can go, nah, I fucking learn it from this person and blah, blah, blah. Like they use it as like almost like an arsenal, right? And I've had people who have sent me like PubMed IDs to try and prove that I'm wrong. And I'm like, but I'd done it and it fucking worked. So
you
like,
know what? I agree to disagree in a business sense. I really think that doing courses upon courses is procrastinating.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're continually doing courses and not putting it into action, you're procrastinating your growth because you
100%.
don't want to be uncomfortable.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And when you think about it, actually coming back to you, when I told you to stop, that's when you got really, really uncomfortable.
Yeah, literally.
And you were just like, it might have been like a safety net. I want to go back to do that because then I don't have to be uncomfortable again.
But then at the same time, like when you stopped and you actually stopped thinking about these external things that you were trying to learn and work on, then you got forced to solely look at your business instead of having these other things that you're always thinking about and adding on.
And I think it's just like it comes full circle in like life, right? It's like it's just feeling like you're enough. That's what it is. Without getting like super deep and fucking psychological and all that sort of stuff. It's like, just feel like you're enough. Like people I find are chasing courses, and I'm talking purely from experience. I was chasing courses to justify myself, to explain to people why I had a place in this industry, to why I do that. I
And
had
we
that
look-
when
Like why
I
they
first
should
started, when I
listen
was
to you.
walking from working in a fucking back room in my house in Mayfield on a hand-me-down table. I had that justification. People just wanted to come and be around me and do what I wanted to do. I didn't have to do courses to do that. Did it help? Like, yes, but it's like people do more to try and justify their existence. I'm like, you being here is plenty, as long as you
Yeah.
have good intention.
I think your industry incredibly important to have your credentials, incredibly important to
Oh,
stay
yeah.
up to date, incredibly important to upskill, but don't utilize it as a way to procrastinate
But
growing
that's
your business.
also like when you have like as a therapist, you have registration with an association, and they make you do CPE, like continued professional education, every year to keep your registration. You had to do 40 points each year, right? And that would depend on length of course and duration and whatever else. In the last 12 months, from the amount of courses that I do, I don't have to do CPE for the next 4.5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I mean, right? Like that's the expectation the industry wants you to have. And then that's where I went. It's like, maybe, you know, if you don't want to do the bare minimum, but find a happy medium. Like they message me and they're like, oh, hey, your registration's about to be up because your CPE points are about to run out. I'm like, oh, what certificates do you want? Here you go. And I just like email them off. I'm like, does that meet the requirements? They're like, yeah, sweet. So I've got stuff sitting there. Yeah, I think it's a good way to look at it is like, if you don't want to do the basics, do a little bit more, but also understand that like too much, it starts to just have that negative return.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because then you have too much information.
Yeah. And then I guess if you're getting into it to help people and what you already know is helping people, don't feel like you have to keep doing more and more and more and more because you are enough if you're helping people and that's what you want to do.
Another side of things.
Because it'll just work. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when it comes to business, and now we've been through your business journey, what are your top 3 tips to online coaches?
Ooh, top 3. Number 1, obviously, learn how people move. Like that is well and truly the best thing you can do. Like learn anatomy, learn physiology, learn gait cycle, learn respiratory mechanics, learn biomechanics, 100%. That's a non-negotiable because that's the base of everything you fucking do, 100%. Number 2 would have to be, don't throw more. This is actually something I see a lot now, is don't throw volume at something because it's not growing or it's not working. And that can be, you can take that as like a business tip, or you can take that as a fucking bodybuilding tip, right? It's like, just don't throw volume at it because it's not doing something that you want it to do.
Yeah.
Maybe work out
Consistency
why.
is important
100%.
in where it needs to be.
More doesn't mean better.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I always say to people. It's like, more is not better, better is better. Do that.
Like in a business sense, both of us have experienced that because we both decided to stop being persistent in one area for another area to grow.
Yeah.
So it's
exactly.
definitely, yeah.
Diluted attention. Absolutely.
And if like you will know when it's not working.
Yeah.
Like your body will tell you when it's not working in both senses, like
100%.
in business and
You'll know. Because like you said to me the other day, like about resentment and stuff, right? Like you start to resent things that you're not actually invested in.
Yeah.
And that was huge for me. Like that was actually a major turning point. And that was yesterday. So that was good. And then number 3 is hands down, be who you are in real life online.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if you're not, you will create such a large fucking disconnect within yourself.
Yeah.
Like how many, influencers and stuff do you know that when you talk to them, they're a fucking anxious mess? Because they put out this persona, they then have to back that up in real life, and it's so far disconnected from who they actually are that they then have to put on this mask or facade to do that, and that takes a lot more energy than just being your fucking self.
Yeah,
we talked about this.
I
the
think
other
I was going to
day,
say, I brought this up that was like, also you don't want to put out this persona and then when people actually become your client and they're talking to you one-to-one and you're completely different to what you are when they came to you, like they're not going to be like, is that the same person as what I see online? And then they'll like, they won't resonate, or like they wanted to come to that person and now they're not, and they're gonna be like, oh,
there's a way to be polished and yourself. But if anyone follows you on Instagram, your Instagram is hilarious. Like I will never get over the video of you running over that doll.
Oh, the sex doll, yeah, that was wild. But that's what I mean, right? Because like I always said it, I was like, online, I swear, like it's just how I am. Apologies to my mum, but like I swear, I wear slides, I drink a lot of coffee, and I say some pretty unhinged shit sometimes, right? But people get that when they come into the clinic.
Yeah.
And there's people who have booked with me, and I actually had a lady who was maybe about 40, like early 40s, and she came in and she's like, I'm really excited to be here. And I was like, why? And she's like, because you're the first therapist that I saw say fuck on the internet. And I was like, she's like, that's my sort of person. I can relate to that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I always come back to this, but Adam Sullivan, when he dropped the C word, he exploded because that's who he is.
Yeah.
And that's why people love him.
Yeah, exactly. And
people love relating to people.
Exactly. And I think it's an extremely valuable tool in creating your niche, right? Because you'll filter out who doesn't want to fucking do that.
I have to, because you did a information night at BFT.
Yeah.
And my partner goes to BFT, James, and he came because he was going. I was like, Steve's going, and James had known that I worked with you for ages. But he came home and he's like, he was wearing socks and slide. He had an energy can in his hand. Like, I didn't know what to do. And then he talked. And then I was like, it doesn't match. He was like, he was so shocked by it. But he was like, it's exactly who you get online.
Yeah. And that's, that was something that one of my clients, he's a therapist in South Australia. He actually said to me once, he's like, there's no way you can look like that and be that fucking smart.
Yeah.
And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, look at you. And I like, obviously you don't see it about yourself, but like I even used I had this older German lady come and see me once. And she's like, Steve. I was like, yes. She goes, you're very much smarter than you look. And I was like, thanks, babe. Appreciate it. Like, you know, like that's how it is. But it's like you can't judge a book by its cover. But I'm like, also too, like you can just be yourself and people will gravitate towards it. And like if someone says like they come in, they don't like it, so be it. They're not your
people.
Yeah. But that probably, it's going to give you longevity in business because you're going to enjoy working with the people
100%.
that love your personality.
You will enjoy your clients, your people, and
100%. And like you don't want to wake up and feel like who you are on a daily basis is a fucking task, right?
Yeah.
Like that's hard. That's really hard.
It's a job in itself.
Exactly. And there's people out there, especially especially within the fitness industry, but when they do that, like you see through fake shit, right? You see through it straight away. And there's a few videos that I watch people do and it might be like a viral thing, but it's like, is that who you really are? Because I've talked to you before and that's not your style of content. It's like, although it might not, you know, you might post shit, like I post shit that I want to post. And even if it doesn't slap, I sit there and I watch it. Like I reckon about the fucking, if it gets like 10, literally, I watch my own shit because I'm like, I made this for me. Like that was with Frenny. Like we talk about it all the time. She's like, do you think people watch this and just think we're fucking weird? I was like, yeah, but I said, how much do we laugh when we watch it?
Right.
Like,
I said this before, like, because I had never done like a podcast or anything like that. And they were like, oh, did you find it like weird watching yourself back? I was like, no, one of my favorite activities is watching my own Instagram story. I'm like,
literally. And people think it's like self-obsessed, but it's kind of like you're a bit proud of it. Like, even the blow up doll video, I don't know how many times I've watched that and I still fucking laugh over it.
You've got to love your own content.
Do you have it?
I don't know.
I want to get a live reaction.
Yeah.
Can you pull it up so Kira? It's so fun.
Actually, yeah, that's good. I like it.
So that was like that. Yeah. That one went mental. Yeah.
Like just so unexpected.
Yeah, but you could imagine, right? So like there's me and Frenny and we're in the back streets of Mayfield with a blow up sex doll and I've got this bright red fucking V8 car with personalised plates and I'm flooring it down this closed street to run over this sex doll and I've got her on the side of the road going, yeah, run it over. And it was just like, fuck, if you could have like had someone follow us around for that day, the reel of the outside would have been way better than the actual video.
God. That would have been great. That's so funny. I love that.
I love it so much. It's my favourite video. All right. Well, we have been talking for a very, very long time, so we should wrap up this episode. Absolutely. But if our audience does want to find you, where do they look?
Yep. So my personal page is at Mr.Myo_. Someone took the one without the underscore.
Rude.
Dog. I know. And then Myo at Myo_move is my move page.
Yeah.
So that's where I will be posting all my education stuff. So like my seminars, online courses, all that sort of stuff. My podcast will all be on there. My personal page is where I will post, personal things.
Yeah. Amazing. And your seminars will be for coaches to attend.
Yeah. So my seminars can be for therapists, coaches, or whatever, because what it actually is like, I don't teach a method, I teach a principle. And so how you implement that principle can be done, as I said, either on a table or in a gym. Mm-hmm. So it goes to both. It's just I'm teaching you how people move and what we should look for. How you implement that is completely up to you.
Going on tour.
Yeah, hopefully. So yeah, fingers
Wow.
crossed. Yeah.
That has been on the goal list for a while.
Yeah, it has. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd love to, like, obviously, I was lucky enough to be shared via a big cupping therapy page. So like, yeah, shout out DP
I
from
watched
Cup
that
Therapy.
yesterday.
If you come
Yeah.
to Brisbane, let me know.
Yeah.
That's where I
Literally.
am.
So I'm hopefully going to make my way up and down there, but then I'd eventually too, I want to get over to like the UK, US.
Yeah.
So I've been mentoring a few people over there as well. So
Yeah, cool.
yeah, it'd be cool to get over there, working holiday.
Definitely. And reach out. Even there's no silly question. Reach out if you do need
Oh,
any
absolutely.
kind of
Like
advice.
I am the most, and this is actually something a lot of people have said too, is like, you're one of the most patient people to teach something. It's because I know how frustrating it is when
That's
you
a
don't get
great
it.
skill to have, by the
Yeah.
way, is
Yeah.
being patient with people.
100%.
A lot of people do not have patience with people. So having that is
Yeah.
a great skill to have.
No, absolutely.
Beautiful. Well, thank
right.
you so much.
No, welcome. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It's been great.
No worries at all.
Okay.
you.
Bye.
I never know how to close it off.